Here we have a parallelogram ABCD. The ratio of the adjacent sides is 1:2, which means if this side is x, then the other side, the adjacent side, would be 2x. What about the other two sides? We know that in a parallelogram, opposite sides are equal, which means if this is x, this is also x, and here you have a 2x. What else is given? The ratio of adjacent angles is 1:3. That means if this angle is theta, then the angle here will be 3 theta. But then what do we know about the adjacent angles of a parallelogram? Their sum is 180. The sum of adjacent angles in a parallelogram is 180, which means what? 4 theta is 180 degrees, which means theta is 45 degrees. So, which one do you think is an acute angle? Does this look like an acute angle? This will be acute and this will be the obtuse angle, right? So, here you have a 45 degrees and here you have a 135 degrees. Here, this angle will be 135. And what we need to find is the height of this parallelogram. What is the height of the parallelogram? It is the shortest distance or the perpendicular distance between any pair of opposite sides. So if you take these two sides, the distance between them, if this is h, there will be another height, right? Between these two sides also, there will be a height. You have to find that also. But here we are given the information that the sides are in the ratio 1:2, which means their heights, their corresponding heights will have a reciprocal ratio. The heights will be in the ratio 2:1, which means corresponding to this x, if you have h, then corresponding to the bigger side, you will have a smaller height. Why is that? Because if you look at the area of ABCD, area of a parallelogram, it is base into altitude, right? So if you take this base, corresponding to it, you should take this altitude. If you take this base, corresponding to it, you should take this altitude. So you see what we are doing here. Whichever base you take, with that base and the corresponding altitude, your area has to be same. At the end of all of this, your area has to be same. It has to be a constant. That is why you will notice that whatever ratio you have the sides, the heights will have a reciprocal ratio. Now what we need to find is two heights here, but we just need to find one and then take the half of it. Now let DM be the altitude to the side AB. Now look at the triangle ADM. What sort of a triangle do you see here? Here you have a 90 degrees, here you have a 45 degrees. Then what will be the third angle? The sum of angles of a triangle is 180 degrees, which means if this is 45, this will also be 45 degrees. Or in other words, if you take ADM, the angles are in the ratio 45, 45 and 90 degrees, which means it is a special angle. What do we know about it? The ratio of the sides opposite to these angles will be in the ratio 1:1:√2. Or in other words, for any constant h, if the side opposite to 145 degrees is h, then the side opposite to the other 45 degrees will also be h, and the largest side, which will be opposite the largest angle, that will be √2h. Now we have drawn the altitude. Let us take it as h. What we need to find is a value for this h. And what do we know? We have a 90 degrees here. Opposite to the 90 degrees, what do we have? We have 2x. But what is it actually? Opposite to 90 degrees, what you need to have is √2h, which means h is equal to what? It is √2x. We have found a value for h. Now what is the area of ABCD? It is base into its corresponding altitude. Now the base is x and the corresponding altitude we found it was root 2x. But what is given? What is the area of ABCD? It is given as 36 root 2, which means x square is equal to 36, which means x is 6 centimeters. Now all the measurements here are in terms of x. So let us rewrite all our measurements. Now we have found the value for this height, the height which corresponds to this side. But what about the height which corresponds to its adjacent side? I have constructed a line DN. It is the altitude. What we need to find is the length of this height. Again, what is the area of ABCD? It is base into the corresponding altitude. Now the base we found it is 12. We do not know what DN is. So the area of ABCD is given as 36 root 2, which means DN is equal to what? It is 3 root 2, or in other words, if this height is 6 root 2, the other height here, the one which corresponds to 12 centimeters, will be 3 root 2. These are the two heights that we were looking for. As you can see, they are in the ratio 2:1. Or in other words, if the sides are in the ratio 1:2, you will see that their heights are in the reverse ratio. Multiply both of them, you will see a 36 root 2 here, and you will get a 36 root 2 here. So that is all. Assalamu alaikum.